Joe Pulizzi, are you ready to fearlessly question today?
I am absolutely ready, my friend. Let's do it.
All right, fantastic. You hold the distinguished honor of being the first fellow Clevelander to join me on the show. We've actually met twice in person. It was very briefly both times. I doubt you remember them, but it is nice to be among my people here today.
I absolutely do. No, you need more Cleveland representation. We need
I
to do something about that.
Well, there's you, and we got to get Jeff Roars on the show. I think he's another fellow Clevelander.
Absolutely.
But we'll see what we can do about that. But
You got it.
so we won't bring people down with our usual Clevelandness, and we'll try and keep things upbeat and moving in the right direction. And I promise we'll do our best not to make it a Cleveland show. I can't promise that it won't happen, but it just might. But Joe, the first fearless question that I have for you, just to kind of get things going in the right direction. Um, what is one of the most unimpressive tasks that you kind of, when you do it, it just blows your mind when you do it well?
Unimpressive tasks?
Yeah, like an unimpressive task. Man, this is like a monkey could do this, but I'm so excited I did this really well right now.
Um, I would maybe just the art of blogging. I think is well. Let me.
I think you're giving people a little bit too much credit with that one.
You know what? Probably have to say actually podcasts. I did not realize the power of podcasts, and actually, before I started, so I'm on my second podcast now. I actually thought, oh man, I got to learn something. It's going to be so hard. I mean, and then really in a matter of a weekend, read enough on it, got a decent microphone, got working, and I think what you don't realize is that it's the consistency that's the most important thing. Everybody says it's got to be the quality of content, and yes, of course, that's table stakes, the quality of content. But just the fact that you're consistently doing it every week, and we've got one show that's almost up to 60 episodes, and then I just launched Content Inc. For the last couple weeks, and it's just if these programs fail, they fail because they're not consistent, and that's the biggest issue that I think businesses have.
You've got a bar set really high then, because I mean I was thinking like really like I'm talking like putting a new roll of paper towels on the rack thing. Like I guess when I was thinking of this question, I mean like what made me think of this question was I was feeling we have like an olive oil thing next to the stove that we kind of use like outside of the actual traditional olive oil bottle, and I just filled that without spilling any into the little hole, and I was like yes, I mean, that's what I was hoping for, but I will just assume then that you are really good at all of those things, and that is, I guess, your basement floor then.
I mean, if you want to get really set the bar low, I think I do a fairly good job of cleaning when I do it. I'm an exceptional person. If you want to really get something clean, I will come in there and I will do a fantastic job. The challenge is getting me to do it.
Okay, so you're the deep cleaner. Somebody
send me in there.
Yeah, so it's like it doesn't happen often, but when it does, it gets done right, right? Is that
That's
it?
exactly right. Absolutely.
Maybe that'll be your new tagline. But why don't we just kind of catch people up a little bit? I don't know if you know entirely why you're here or what we're going to do. That seems to be a trouble that I have communicating with most guests. But I want you to catch people up. Tell them your story as it relates to fearlessly questioning successful habits.
So I've been in publishing for the last 15 years. And decided to start a business in 2007. I actually had a list of a bunch of notebooks that I put together. I've done it for a long time. I've got notebooks all over my desk right now that I just jot ideas into. I always want to start a business. Finally, my wife said, you talk about this enough. Are you going to do it or what? And decided to start a business. It's now called Content Marketing Institute. And I've been doing that since 2007, as I said, writing books, blogs, putting on events all around content marketing. And, of course, in Cleveland, as you know, we hold the big Content Marketing World event. And we're just trying to figure out how brands can tell better stories, and we're trying to be the education providers for that. So that's the overview. Now, specifically your question, lay it on me. What do you want me to dig into on that?
Well, I think we'll get there. I just wanted people to kind of know your journey. Well, because the reason that we set this, the reason that I didn't, you didn't approach me and say, hey, Joe, you got to be on the show. I said the reason I approached you to be on the show was from your bold talk that you gave at HubSpot's Inbound 14 conference. And you talked about kind of more or less a turning point that you kind of, when you adopted these things that you started doing that you kind of attributed to, actually achieving the things that you set out. So we're going to kind of go after that in a
Yeah.
couple different ways, which was a fantastic talk, by the way. And I try to do
Thank
some
you.
of your things, and I'm going to tell you as we go on through the show that I have yet to fully be successful at any of them. So we can laugh at my misfortune here. But the first question, the first real fearless question that I have for you is, um, should we try to create exact copies of these successful habits?
No, I don't think so. I think everybody finds what works for them. For me specifically to that talk you're uh, referencing, what I found was I wasn't focused on anything. I was pretty much all over the place, and I had to figure out a way that would get me more focused. Actually, I just read a passage yesterday. Jack Ma, who's the founder of Alibaba, he was runner-up for Times Person of the Year. So I was reading the article on Alibaba, and he had a really good quote. And I'm not going to say this right, but it's something like, "If you fight in the ocean, you will lose. If we end up fighting in the river, we will win." And that just resonated with me. And I think that so many entrepreneurs and business owners or whatever you're doing need to focus on that, because if you're not focused on something that you can really be an expert in, and I don't care what it is, it could be cleaning things, it could be putting the soap in whatever the container is. Be the best at something. And writing, and what I ended up doing, and from that talk, I realized that my goals were sort of in my head. I didn't have them focused, and each day I would get up and I'd work on different things because I didn't know where the ship was heading, and I started to write down those goals. And then specifically after read the book by Grant Cardone, which is the 10X Rule, which is a fantastic book. I recommend it for everyone. But then I started to separate those goals into multiple categories around financial issues, spirituality, philanthropic needs, family needs, and then started to really say, well, what do I want my family to be? How do I want my involvement in that family? What do I want to do financially? Spiritually, how is this, where do I want to go? And I think thinking about that was critical. And then the wrapper on all that is reviewing it every day. And that's kind of the one thing that I do differently than most people do, is actually reviewing those goals. Now, does everyone have to do this? No, I don't think so to be successful, but I think it absolutely helps. What I see most people doing, even running a business or not, they get involved, they get caught up in email, they get up during the day, they don't really know what they're doing. What I know is when I get up, I read those goals, I know what I want to do. Based on that, and then I set sub goals based on those big overriding goals, and I just couldn't survive without it, Joey, because I wouldn't know where I'm headed for that day. So you really get focused. And then when I don't, sometimes I miss a day, it's all over the place. So for me, that has helped. I think it'll help a lot of people too, but I don't think it has to go for everyone. I don't think there's just one way to be successful.
Well, at least if Content Marketing Institute doesn't work out, we know we've got your next business idea in line for an awesome deep cleaning business.
I'm into it.
All right. No, but okay. So now tell me if I'm wrong, but if I remember correctly, that kind of practice of those habit of writing those down, didn't that come from like a book that you read? Like, wasn't that something that author had kind of mentioned in a book that you were reading, or did you make that kind of?
Absolutely. There's 3 books that made a huge impact on that goal setting and thinking about what I wanted to do and what the impact I wanted to make on the world. The first one was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. By the way, it's a very sexist book. It was written, I think, in 1938. So if you can look past that, some very really amazing thoughts and activities that you should do just about your mindset. So getting your mindset ready for what you want to do and the goals that you want to pursue. So that was the first thing. The second one was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And the second habit is the one that really resonated with me, and that's begin with the end in mind. And I think whatever people are doing with me, let's make it to me personally, I know that if I'm going forward with an activity or a project, I need to know what the end result is. By the way, just sidebar into marketing, that's why a lot of marketing fails, because they focus on the activity and not the goal. So going back to that, so those 2 books, and then it was the 10X Rule that I put the wrapper on top of that really said, okay, are you writing down those goals, and are you reviewing those goals in these categories on a regular basis? And that's like the trifecta education trifecta for me that really changed everything. So Think and Grow Rich I read in 2005, 6. The 7 Habits I read a few years after that, and then 10X Rule I read in 2010. And so now in 2014, 2015, here's where we're at, making all the difference. So.
Yeah, because I think, well, and I guess maybe I took it a little bit the wrong way, because I kind of felt like from your talk, it seemed like you had kind of pulled them out, like, and maybe pieced them together a little bit, but it felt like you really kind of stuck with what worked for that other person. Was that, I mean, or did you do a little bit more to kind of overlay your own personality to those habits?
I took a lot of what they said, but I did not copy it. There's if you read Think and Grow Rich, there's some areas that I don't believe in, but there's enough. I mean, that's why when I read a book, I'm looking for one thing that's going to change my life in any book that I read. So those are the things that stuck with me. I wouldn't say I followed it line by line, but I meshed those 3 together. So yeah, I mean, in general, yes, but not overall, just because, I mean, it's the same thing when we go and we advise on content marketing approaches. There's not one way to get there. I've seen it work. I've been on 200 different engagements for these big enterprises for content marketing, and you know what? There's 200 different plans. They're absolutely unique, but they take the principles of what we're talking about specifically in goal setting and what we want to do, and that's all the same.
So then, I guess the big question here is how do you kind of determine when you should kind of adapt something, or when you could just kind of have to grind it out and say, like, this is the part that needs to be, this is the hard work, or where is it, well, I can give a little bit on this, this might work better for me?
I think a lot of it is experimentation. What I do know and realized, and so whatever tactic or strategy that I've looked at, I've got to give it time. It's the same thing in this way I think about it, because I don't know if you're a runner. Are you a runner? Do you run on a regular basis?
I'm not a runner. I do everything but run. If you said anything about me, it's not running. If I had to classify myself, I'd say I'm a P90X guy if I had to do something.
Oh, that's fantastic. So this will resonate with you. But I don't like anything else but running. I enjoy running. I enjoy kind of getting away and thinking a little bit. It sort of takes all that stress away. And when I started, I ran in high school, cross country. I was fairly decent at it, and then I stopped running for 20 years. Life gets in the way, right? And then I started to run again, and it's deflating when you used to be a runner and then you start to run again. And I literally ran down the block and I'm winded and I had to stop. And then the next day I made it a half a mile, and the next day I made it a mile, and you keep working and working. So at first you'd say, well, geez, this is terribly hard work. I don't know if this is going to work, but it really didn't see that it was going to work well for me until I got to 3 to 6 month mark, and I stayed with that consistently. So I think that's where most people give up. I mean, so let's take this to, I always bring examples back to marketing. Let's take marketing. When I started my blog in 2007, April 26th of 2007, had the first blog post. First 6 months, nobody, I think my mom was the only one that ever read any blog post I ever put together, and she had no idea what I was talking about. I didn't have much of an audience. If I would have looked at that at 6 months, I'd have said, boy, Joe, you failed on this. You didn't get any audience at all. 3 months later, totally different story. It really started to pick up, started to gain an audience. Then 9 months after that, unbelievable, the difference. So I think that it's all about picking what works for you, but then just doing it consistently and committing to that. And I think you've got to sort of work within yourself. How long are you willing to give it? I already knew that when I was like the podcast, for example, when Robert Rose and I started the podcast, we said we will absolutely, no matter what happens, we will do this for 52 episodes, 1 full year. And then after 52, we'll review and see how it went. Well, we knew before then it was going to be a success, but at the beginning we didn't know, but we had to make that commitment from a time standpoint to get there.
And I'm glad we're not going to do something else right now, but I'm gonna keep on this little side path here real quick. I think what you brought up, I would call it maybe the progress distraction of we kind of continue to fill our heads with these different new habits, but we don't really see through the old ones that we kind of wanted to actually implement, or we don't really take time to understand like the progress that we have made. Do you see that as a common theme with a lot of people?
You mean the part about just doing something but getting lost along the way?
Well, I mean, so when you start to, so we all keep listening to podcasts, we all keep reading blog posts, we all keep doing these things to, keep filling our head with more ideas that are really not any better or worse than the ones we had before. They're just distracting us from continuing to stick with what we had originally. Do you think that it doesn't let us to see that progress as clearly, or I guess to kind of say that it's to validate it as much?
I don't know. I mean, I don't even know how to answer that question, or if I'm
You
reading
can say, Joey, that was a, you can say, Joey, you can say, you're fully aware, you're fully allowed on the show to say, Joey, that was a horrible question. Let's go to the next one.
Well, no. I mean, so this is what when you were saying that question, this is what I thought of. I read the article recently where Mark Zuckerberg and then Steve Jobs, they talked about their wardrobe, and Steve Jobs, of course, only wore one thing every day because he didn't want that additional power, mind power, to go towards something else. I'm sorry, go ahead.
This is crazy. Did you read this? Because I just read the same thing like literally an hour before we did this thing. What were you reading?
Hey, it finally got to Cleveland.
Yeah.
It just took a while to get.
It was an email I got. It was about Mark Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs' wardrobe.
Yeah, so you probably saw the Mark Zuckerberg one that said he wears the gray T-shirt every day and whatever because of the process. So I wear, you can't, I don't know if you can see this. I got orange stripes in here. I got orange shoes on. I got my orange watch. I have a very limited wardrobe supply with just fluctuations around how much orange am I going to wear in that particular day. That's it. So I know getting up, I know exactly I got these socks, these shoes, this watch, and I don't spend any more time. That's something I learned just over the past couple of years, sort of added to my repertoire. I think it's better. I think it's helping. From not only a processing issue, but just from an overall branding issue. So I think I don't think we ever get it. I mean, I think you go ahead and you'll end up passing away someday. Do you ever get this perfect thing, this perfect way of living? But I think we're always searching to do better. So I don't think you ever get a process and say, this is it, I'm done. I think I want to learn. If I don't learn something new in a day, I think I probably failed. So I can add to that and become better in some way.
I have seen your orange shoes in person, and they are fantastic. I tried to outdo you on the orange today. I don't know if I was successful or not, but
I am totally impressed that you are wearing orange.
Is
that your color though? Are you?
Yes and no. So if anybody watches the show, I wear 2 shirts basically for every hangout. So I just kind of flip flop. This is one of them. It's the color of the site, so I just kind of said I'll wear an orange shirt to go with the site, and I got the gray tie. So
love it. I do. It makes a difference. I think people don't think about that enough. Where you have so many chances to differentiate yourself. Clothing is one of them, and I think we need to spend more time on that.
Really, it boils down to, and nobody's ever given me the opportunity to say this on the show yet, but it really just boils down to my really core desire to be like a cartoon character in real life, where I get to wear the same thing every day. That's kind of the ultimate motivation.
If that's a goal, then you're accomplishing that.
Yeah, so at least I get that. So you have absolutely no preparation for what I'm about to do now, but every guest that comes on the show, I like to give you a little bit of a break and turn the tables on everybody listening or watching with us. It's your turn to ask the audience a fearless question of your own, something that you kind of maybe have always wanted to know the answer to, but weren't sure how people would react to it.
I guess I would like to say, when you look at success, I want to know what's the number one thing that determines success for the audience. Is it financial? Is it spiritual? Is it family? That's something that I look at because, I mean, as I told you, I put mine in 6 different categories, and I have certain ones set at the top that are more important than the others. And I guess from the audience standpoint, I guess as they define success, I would like to know, what do they put first, and what you put first actually makes all the difference in the world, because those affect all the other goals going forward.
All right. Well, if anybody wants to chime in that is watching live, feel free. We'll go ahead and kind of work those in as we slowly start to wrap up here with Joe. So let's talk about quickly, and this kind of piggybacks off of what we were talking about slightly before that, is why are we kind of fascinated with the idea of this improvement, but yet we kind of get lost in the kind of implementation or action of it?
I think everybody wants to go to the shiny disco ball of tactics. So whether you're talking about, I know you're probably specifically focusing on individual success, but I always look at that because, I mean, I was just at another company
Oh,
today.
don't skip ahead of me yet, Joe. That's the next question coming up. Don't
Oh, am
assume
I
you know
moving
where we're
ahead?
going. No,
I'm
no,
going
no,
too
no.
fast.
Don't assume you know where we're going with this thing. So yeah, so it's go ahead, continue. I don't want to interrupt. I'm a terrible host.
I think it's human nature to focus on the small tactical things and to get inundated with that, and you don't see the big picture. And that's why, for me personally, if I'm not seeing what is the overall goal, I could sit literally all day. Personally, I could sit in front of a computer all day and just sit in front of my email all day long. Email, just create an activity. But if I don't know that, oh, I've got to set this time to email and this time to email because I'm not going to get these projects done because it's going to commit to that goal, I'm in trouble. That's where, I mean, and to be honest with you, I have some really close friends of mine that I've had discussions with, and that I see them they're so busy. Everybody's so busy. And I'm like looking at them, I'm like, busy doing what? What is your goal? What are you trying to do? And in a lot of cases, they don't have an answer. I'm just busy. And I think in a lot of cases, when you get to your jobs, you actually you feel like you're compensated for activity. And by the way, a lot of employers compensate on activity, which I think is completely wrong.
I love that, Joe. That drives me nuts. If I could like start some sort of campaign, that might be one of them.
Well,
and it all kind of ties back to that question that you asked too, does it not? It's like, what do you want out of everything? Lon gives a pretty good answer. He says peace of mind. I think that's something that we all could probably look forward to. I think what I would kind of take a spin on that, and I didn't take my opportunity to answer your question when you asked it, but I kind of want the ability to do the things that I know aren't the most. Let's say, okay, if I could, I'd want to play video games like every day if I could. So I want the time to play video games. Like that's what I want. Like I want to be able to not be busy with all that stuff that you're talking about and play a video game every now and then. Isn't that everybody's goal, to kind of do the things that they want as opposed to the things like you said, sitting in front of their email?
Well, I mean, to that point, one of the reasons I left my corporate job was I was traveling. I was doing a lot of travel. I still do a lot of travel, but I was traveling on their time. I had to go exactly where they told me to go, even if I agreed with that decision or not, and that's just the way it was. Now I can choose the travel. I can choose to take my family with me on the travel. Now I have, my kids are 11 and 13. Two boys are 11 and 13 now, but when I started the business, they were 2 and 7, and I felt like I was going to miss out. So I'm more strategic about making those decisions because family is those 2 kids are pretty important, and they're going to be out of the house before you know it, doing their own thing. So that was critical.
Yeah, and kind of along that same line, Theodora says, for me, success is creating such an environment around your writing and living that allows adventurous journeys with many discoveries, so on and so forth, that you can connect the dots with. So I think that's kind of what you were saying with the kids and taking advantage of those opportunities. One of the last fearless questions that I will bring up for you, there might be one or two that pop up in between here, but this is pretty much the last one that I've got for you. And kind of talking about how you think we're focusing on the individuals, but this is where we're ultimately going with this, is how important is it for these habits to exist beyond the 9 to 5?
Well, we're not just our jobs, right? So these are life goals. Your job, your career is part of the life goals. So that's why when I was actually, I'll give you an example of this. I was talking to one of my buddies who just started putting down their goals, and the goals were all financial and job related. And I'm like, that's great, but is that it? I mean, you're married, you've got kids. I mean, like, so okay, you make a lot of money, great. What's the payoff? The payoff has to be something else. So I think that if we're just thinking about it from the 9 to 5 perspective and doing it, so why are you even working? I hope you're working for other reasons, whether that is philanthropic or whether that's family related or something like that. I don't know if people think about that. A lot of the people that I talk to, they're working so hard to get to the end of the day, then they're so exhausted, then they're, I'm getting home, I'll watch some TV, veg out, and then I'm on to the next day. I'm like, boy, that seemed like a wasted day. Plus, we're doing all this activity during the day. I don't know why, and they're in a job that they don't even know what they want to do next, and what is that career move? And that's, I don't know if you're a fan of Chris Rock, which some people are.
I am. I mean, should I not be? Like, you kind of asked that question like it's debatable. Like,
some people are. So there's one of his skits. He does the jobs versus a career, and I don't know if you've seen that one, but he says, if you got a job, God bless you. You keep that job, keep working. But if you got a career, don't say anything to those people with jobs and making them feel bad. Because you're getting up every day, you're excited, you're working on your project, there's not enough time in the day. Don't be going and making those people that have jobs feel bad. Just shut up. And I just love that part. And that resonates a lot with me, because it's got to be, the job has to mean something more, and that means including something outside of your career as well.
That was a pretty solid Chris Rock imitation. I give it a B-. I think.
If I was going to do the imitation, we couldn't be doing this on air if I was going to do the imitation.
This is a family show. Yes. So yeah, I mean, I think obviously, I guess what frustrates me a lot too is people look at these things in sort of a vacuum or a silo. Like you said, they don't understand that they all kind of work together. Even if you don't, even if you're not making that connection right away, it's just, you're going to go home, you're going to come to your family, and if you don't have that person on board with whatever you're trying to do, if you don't have time to actually play, even I don't know if you're guilty of this, like I'll be, once I get done with whatever I'm doing during the day, I come down, I play with the kids, and it's like, I feel exhausted. It's like, that's like, how can I change my day to not feel that way when by the time I get to see them,
That's great. That's an absolute perfect point. And but the fact is that you're thinking about it where a lot of people don't, and that's, at least we're on our way, because we're cognizant of, we want to make a change and we want to do something differently, and you have to at least realize it first.
Well, let me ask it, and this will be the last one for you, and I promise. So what has created that ability for us to not even be aware of that? Why would you say to me, boy, that's great that you're thinking about that? Because I feel like, again, like talking about where we started, like setting the bar, like would that not be kind of like the bar's a little bit low there?
That is a great question. In thinking about some of the people, I'm not going to point it, but some of the people in my family, they didn't.
I don't think they watched the show, Joe. I don't think
that's fine. But they didn't feel, as they, this is years ago, they didn't feel they had choices. This was the way it was. You did this to provide for your family. Don't ask any questions. Get it done. Go on to the next day, and then hopefully your kids will be better off. And I think a lot of people, that's bred into a lot of people, where it's just, okay, well, I majored in this, I got this job, I can't do anything else, I've got limited options, I don't think I've got the power to do anything else. What's amazing about the time we live in is that I think everybody, if they think they can do something, they can do it. I watched it. I don't know if you listened to the Sean West podcast at all. Somebody just turned me on to it. He actually built a fairly large business by selling training for letter writing, on how to old world letter writing, and which I didn't even think was a thing.
I didn't know it was a thing. I'm gonna be honest.
I didn't know it was a thing either. But he created an audience around it. Sold these online training packages, and the first day he sold hundreds of thousands of dollars on this online training thing. And I was listening to his podcast, and he said, here's the weird thing. He's like, he asked the co-host, do you think $1 million is a lot of money? And he says, yeah, I think $1 million is a lot of money. He says, here's the thing. He says, I don't want to be arrogant about this, but I don't. I don't think it's $1 million is a lot of thing, because if you think $1 million is a lot, maybe you'll get 10% of that. But if you think that, oh, that's not very much, maybe 100 million, so it's the thought process that changes everything about what you do. And that's what he was saying is because I don't think $1 million is a lot, I've got to set my sights higher. And I think back to Zuckerberg, right? For whatever you think about Zuckerberg, that guy thinks big. He thinks bigger than everyone else. I mean, he was thinking big from the start, where he knows this is, okay, I'll give this up, I'll do this, because this is going to be a multi-billion-dollar organization. $1 million is nothing, and when the guy didn't have two nickels to rub together at the time. So it's just interesting. It's all about, I don't even know how I got on that tangent, Joey, but I think it's just so critical that we limit our thinking for whatever reason, for upbringing, for just, I got the job and I feel steady, I'm secure in it. I mean, what's risk? See, I feel it's having a job, 9-to-5 job in a lot of cases, is way more risky, with benefits even, than going off on your own and doing something else. Most people would disagree with that. I think staying in a job is risky, but I used to think differently, but I've been trying to get myself out of that, and luckily I think a little bit differently now.
Well, isn't that the 10x rule? I mean, I haven't read the book, but if of the books that I've been thinking about reading, that's the most one I would consider reading the most. But isn't that what the 10x rule is?
Yeah, basically? Absolutely. Yeah, they just think 10 times as big as anyone else, and they do it naturally, setting the sights big.
Well, let me just, and I think we'll end with this here, I promise, you touched on they just kind of do the work, they put their head down. I mean, is that a valuable trait, assuming you can just kind of shift the mindset?
To think, you mean to the thought process behind it?
No, so just so that person that can just kind of put all that stuff out of their head and just go do the thing because that's what they were taught, they have that, they kind of just, do the job because it needs done. But if they could shift the mindset, wouldn't they be even 10 times more dangerous?
I don't know. What do you think?
Wow. Jeez. Interesting.
I'm going to put you on the spot. You ask the tough questions.
Well,
what do you think?
Well, the reason that I asked the question is because, and this is a first for the show. Thank you, Joe, for this little moment that we're sharing.
I'm going to throw it back at you.
So the reason that I brought it up is because, so obviously it takes a pretty enormous amount of dedication and commitment to do something that you hate for an extended period of time until, I guess, to the point you become numb to it. Would I not be correct? So once you become numb, then it obviously isn't all that hard. But I'd say that person that can kind of just swallow it and take that, assuming they could shift that focus to something else that they understand the direction to, they're passionate about, would be even 10 times more dangerous to us people who just whine and complain about the stuff we can't tolerate for more than 5 seconds.
When you say dangerous, do you mean successful?
I don't know. I don't know. I just okay. So think about it.
You make it. That's a really good point. I mean, think about that. You got somebody, and we all know. Everybody watching this all knows. You've got certain people that they go in. I mean, they're relentlessly loyal. Go in every day. They hate this job. I hate this job so much. I'm going in every day. Boy, that's amazing focus. We think on the wrong things, but I totally get why that maybe they feel they have to provide for their families, they don't have a choice, whatever. What if you just move them off a little bit into this direction and said, no, let's put that energy to a different place? I mean, that's why if you look at going to college sports, right? Look at anybody that's done college sports. Look at LeBron James. We're talking Cleveland, right? He made that decision to move off of football. He's playing football and basketball. And he says, well, if I'm going to be the greatest basketball player on the planet, I'm going to have to stop playing football because I've got to focus on this because these are where my goals are at. So I think if you spread yourself as your jack of all trades, I don't know if that's going to work. So we totally did a full circle on that one, Joey. But
well, I think we can pretty much. I don't know if we can get any better than that. We got to end the show on a Cleveland reference for one. That was in the contract that I sent over that we had to end the show on a Cleveland reference. But Joe, I do appreciate you taking the time. What is one thing that you could kind of tell somebody today? We're approaching the time of year where everybody says, I'm going to do better next year. What is something that you would say to them to make that one small step today?
Well, the first thing you could do is you need to get that time that you're not doing anything. I mean, like you and I are throwing out this goal setting stuff, and like it's easy. It's not easy. I mean, actually the hardest part is actually figuring out what the heck do you want to do. It's super hard. You actually have to set aside the time. I mean, if you talk to Jonathan Mildenhall, used to be vice president of creative at Coca-Cola, now he's CMO of Airbnb. He said that the greatest things they did at Coca-Cola were the 10% of the things that they did. Of all the 100, they did 70% of stuff they just do all the time, the content creation, 20% little big picture stuff, 10% is that amazing stuff that really, really takes off. And we ask him, well, that's the stuff that's really expensive or what? He says, no, that's the stuff that's easy to do. It's just we don't spend the time to think about it. We didn't spend the time to get in a room and brainstorm together and think about it. So I think that setting aside the time to do nothing, don't sit in front of the television, your iPad, your smartphone, whatever, and just think about this every day. Just start thinking about it, and then you'll get to the point where I can start writing these down, jotting these down, make it, and we call it in content marketing, making it real. If you have any kind of idea what you want to do, but you don't write it down and make it real, it doesn't exist. If it's in your head, it's not real. So get that down there. Once you get that down on paper, you've made the first step, and then you can refine that process.
All right, Joe, that is some good stuff. Where can people find out more about you?
So the business is contentmarketinginstitute.com. The big event is contentmarketingworld.com, and then anything on me and my books and podcasts and everything you can find out at joepulizzi.com.
Joe, one of my life goals is to end up at Content Marketing World at some point in time. I actually asked you why I haven't been to Content Marketing World. You said because you're an idiot, and then I said, okay, fine, we'll take that. Because Joe is such a busy guy, we're actually, usually we wrap up these shows. I say now you can go grab Joe's answer to what fearless question he's most afraid to ask himself in his own life and business. Well, we're going to go do that right now, so it'll be up on the site for you guys to hear in just a bit. But I do appreciate you guys for taking the time to be with us here today. Joe, appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Take it easy, everyone.
Thanks, Joey.